You board your cabin at 1 p.m., the bed is made, the towel on the pillow has been folded into the shape of an elephant. The bathroom smells clean. The minibar is stocked. There is a card on the desk welcoming you by name. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you register this as normal. Of course, it's clean. It's a cruise ship. That's what they do. But here is what you didn't think about. This exact scene, the spotless room, the folded towel, the restocked bathroom, was replicated in 2,700 other cabins on the same ship, on the same morning, inside a window of roughly 4 to 5 hours, by a team that had just completed a full 7-day sailing, with no days off, and was already on the clock for the next one. This is not hotel housekeeping. This is something else entirely. A hotel staggers its checkouts across an entire day, sometimes across 2 days. Guests leave at different times, rooms are cleaned as they free up, and the pace is manageable. A cruise ship does not have that luxury. Every single passenger leaves on the same morning. Every single new passenger boards the same afternoon. And the ship sails whether the cabins are ready or not. That deadline is not flexible. It is not negotiable. It is set by the port, the tide schedule, the maritime authority, and the next week's itinerary. The machine moves. And the housekeeping operation has to fit inside the gap between the last goodbye and the first hello without anyone on either side ever really seeing what happened in between. So how does it actually work? The first thing to understand is that the question itself is slightly wrong. The instinct is to ask, how do they clean that many rooms so fast? But speed is not the core problem. The core problem is coordination under conditions that make speed almost impossible. Here is the timeline. On a large ship, one of Royal Caribbean's Oasis-class vessels, for instance, carrying roughly 5,000 passengers and 2,700 cabins, disembarkation begins before most guests are awake. The last passengers are typically off the ship by around 9 or 9:30 in the morning. Port clearance from customs and immigration follows. New passengers begin boarding around 10 a.m. The ship's bars, pools, and buffet open almost immediately for those new arrivals. And cabins must be ready, cleaned, inspected, and released by 1 p.m. at the earliest, often 2 p.m. That is a 4 to 5 hour window, maximum. But here's the constraint that makes it genuinely hard. Housekeeping cannot clean a cabin until the cabin is empty. Guests do not all leave at once. They leave in waves, following luggage tags, assigned departure times, and personal whims. Some are up at 6 a.m., some linger over breakfast until 9. The rooms do not release in a neat sequence from bow to stern. They release randomly across all decks in no predictable order. And the cleaning teams are moving through those same decks, watching for doors to open, watching for "do not disturb" signs to come down, waiting. This means the operation is not just a cleaning problem. It is a real-time logistics puzzle. And the gap between those two things matters. A daily cabin refresh, the kind that happens every morning or evening during the voyage, takes somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. Straighten the bed, swap towels, vacuum, wipe surfaces, empty the bin. That is a maintenance clean. A turnaround clean is categorically different. Every set of linens is fully stripped and replaced. The bathroom is sanitized with hospital-grade disinfectants. The minibar is inventoried, restocked, and reset for billing. Amenities are replenished: soap, shampoo, stationery, everything. The smoke detector is tested. The life jackets are inspected and repositioned. This is not a refresh. This is a reset from zero. And it takes closer to 45 to 60 minutes per cabin. Do the math against the window. With 2,700 cabins and a 5-hour maximum, the operation has no margin for disorder. None. Now add the rest of what is happening simultaneously on that same ship. While housekeeping is working through those 2,700 cabins, a separate crew is offloading more than 15,000 pieces of luggage from the previous sailing and loading luggage from the new one. A provision team is receiving and storing approximately 300,000 pounds of food and beverages, inspected on the dock, sorted by category, and distributed across cold storage, pantries, and galleys, fast enough for the kitchen to begin preparing lunch for guests who have not yet reached their cabins. Customs officials are clearing the ship. Safety inspections are being completed. Maintenance is handling any mechanical issues flagged during the voyage. And all of this is happening not in sequence, but in parallel, simultaneously, across the same physical vessel. One delay does not stay contained. A late provision delivery compresses the galley schedule. A cabin bottleneck backs up the front desk. A luggage delay ripples into the terminal queue. The whole operation is interlocked, and the housekeeping timeline sits at the center of it. The system that actually makes this work is largely invisible, and it starts before the ship even docks. The cabin decks are pre-divided into fixed geographic sections. Each steward owns a section, typically somewhere between 14 and 20 cabins, and that section does not change from sailing to sailing. The steward knows the layout of their floor the way a mechanic knows the inside of an engine. They know which cabins tend to leave early, which ones run long, which bathrooms are harder to turn around. This knowledge is not written down anywhere. It lives in the person. Before the cleaning window opens, each steward's trolley is preloaded for their exact section. The precise linen count for those specific cabin types, the right amenity quantities, the cleaning products, the restocking supplies. The trolley is positioned in the service corridor between rooms, never too far in either direction. The point is to eliminate any movement that is not cleaning. No fetching supplies from a storage room 3 decks down. No improvising, no waiting. The trolley is the logistics hub. The section is the universe. Everything needed is already there. When a cabin is vacated, the steward enters and works through a standardized sequence. Every cabin, every time, in the same order. Bathroom first, bed second, surfaces third, floors last. The sequence is not aesthetic. It is industrial. The standardization is what makes speed possible at scale without constant supervision. When every steward runs the same sequence, inspection becomes fast. Deviation becomes visible. Quality becomes consistent enough to hold across 2,700 rooms cleaned in parallel by hundreds of different people. Software coordinates what human memory cannot. Ships run property management systems. Oracle's SPMS is widely used across the industry. That track the status of every cabin in real time. Occupied, vacated, in progress, inspection ready, released to the front desk. When a cabin clears inspection, the system updates, and the guest waiting in the terminal can theoretically be assigned to it. The word theoretically carries weight here. When the software lags behind reality, which it does because human cleaning does not always sync cleanly with digital status updates, cabin release bottlenecks appear. New guests pile up in the lobby. The front desk cannot assign rooms it doesn't know are clean. This is one of the most consistently documented friction points in cruise operations. And it is not a hospitality problem. It is a software and human coordination problem wearing a hospitality costume. Here is where the system gets more interesting and more revealing. The people doing this work are not salaried hotel employees with standard labor protections and predictable hours. Cruise ship cabin stewards typically work 7 days a week, 10 to 13 hours a day on contracts that run 6 to 9 months without a single day off. Their base pay on mainstream cruise lines, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, ranges from roughly $900 to $1,500 per month. That figure already includes the pooled gratuities distributed from the automatic daily service charge applied to every passenger's bill, which runs between $14 and $21 per person per day. Think about what that structure means. A steward is not being compensated based on how well they serve a specific guest. They are compensated based on the volume of passengers flowing through the ship over the duration of their contract. The financial incentive is not precision, it is throughput. Clean more rooms, clean them correctly, keep the scores high enough that guests don't remove the automatic gratuity. That is the system the steward is working inside. It is not a wage system, it is a volume and tip architecture. And then there is the service reduction. For decades, the standard in cruise ship housekeeping was twice daily, a morning clean and an evening turndown. Royal Caribbean formally shifted standard cabins to once-per-day service beginning in 2023. Carnival, P&O, and others followed similar paths. The official explanation involved sustainability and alignment with broader hospitality trends. The operational reality is that each steward's section grew. Fewer visits per cabin per day means the same steward can cover more cabins per sailing, which means the same labor produces a higher room yield. The change that was communicated as a guest experience update was also a quiet recalibration of how much work each human being on that housekeeping team is expected to do. If hidden systems and the machinery underneath polished consumer surfaces are the kind of thing you find genuinely interesting, this channel exists to go there into industries, operations, and designs that work hard to stay invisible. Subscribing is the straightforward way to keep that in your feed. Here is the scale of what that recalibration means in practice. A steward with 20 cabins, serviced once daily on a 7-day sailing, performs roughly 140 individual cabin services per voyage. Add the 2 full turnaround cleans, one on departure day, one on return. Do that across a 7-month contract. The total is somewhere above 4,000 individual cabin services, each one performed 7 days a week, on a ship that does not stop without a day off, by someone living in a shared crew cabin 2 or 3 decks below the guest rooms they are responsible for maintaining. The towel animal is not a whimsy, it is the visible end of a production line. And yet, this is the part that the system does not fully explain. The operation runs on something that no software can track and no management structure can mandate. Experienced stewards develop an intuitive map of their section. They know who leaves for breakfast at 7 a.m. without being told. They know which cabins have predictable overuse and which ones are easy resets. They sequence their mornings around this knowledge, working the rooms they know will be free first, banking time for the ones that will hold. The system accounts for this by giving each steward ownership of a fixed section across multiple sailings. The longer a steward has been on the same ship, the more efficient their mornings become. The institutional memory is in the person. When a steward leaves at the end of a contract, that knowledge leaves with them. This is the part of the operation that gets the least attention. Not the software, not the trolley logistics, not the standardized cleaning sequence. The thing that makes turnaround day actually work at scale, without catastrophic failure, is the accumulated human intelligence of people who have cleaned the same corridor enough times to know it better than anyone who manages it from an office. Which brings us back to where this started. You board at 1 p.m., the cabin is spotless, the towel is folded into an elephant. You put your luggage down, step out onto the balcony, and within an hour you have forgotten that the room was ever anything other than this. Clean. Ready. Yours. That is exactly what the system is designed to produce. Not a clean room that feels effortless. A clean room that erases the process that made it. A clean room that feels like it was simply waiting for you rather than the result of coordinated parallel work across hundreds of people. A fixed 4-hour window, a property management system, a preloaded trolley, a standardized cleaning sequence, a tip pool compensation structure, and years of memorized spatial knowledge. Every luxury surface on a cruise ship works this way. The dinner that appears 3 minutes after you sit down, the fresh towels that materialize while you're at the pool, the hallway that is always clear. The ship is not just a vessel. It is an experience machine specifically engineered to render its own infrastructure invisible. The cleaner the operation, the less visible the machinery. The more seamless it feels, the harder the system underneath is working to stay hidden. The hotel industry hides its labor. The cruise industry hides it better, because the labor lives inside the product. The steward who cleans your cabin at 8 a.m. is sleeping 2 decks below you that night, already on the same ship for the next sailing, already counted into tomorrow's cleaning schedule, already part of the system that will make the next guest's cabin look like no one was ever there at all. You board at 1 p.m. The elephant is on the pillow. And now you know what it actually took to put it there. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new about one of the most fascinating engineering marvels ever built by mankind. If you want more content like this, please subscribe and hit that like button. I'm Larry, and this is the Ship Files. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.